How to sell info products and courses before you spend the time to create them. Many people want to turn their passion into info products so they could share what they know and so they could build a business or some entrepreneurial lifestyle from that. And that makes logical sense. It's a really great idea. But making good info products takes time, and it ultimately takes a lot more work than it seems. And too often, the problem is people put in all the time and effort only to find that when they try to sell what they created, nobody buys it. Now, that could be because nobody wants the product, or it could be because the marketing was off. But the material point either way is that that is a lot of wasted effort if it doesn't work. So I'm going to share with you some ways to validate your product and to actually start selling it in advance to know it'll work before you pour your heart and soul into it. Because I think this is a really powerful way, and we can learn some really powerful marketing lessons from this as well. So here are some strategies that we can use to sell info products and courses before we actually go through the trouble of fully making them. The first one is we can validate our idea through pre-selling. So the basic idea here is we create the idea for the product, so we have our outline, we know what it's going to be basically. But instead of spending all the time creating the product, which is what most people do, and then worrying about if they can sell it, instead we go the opposite way. And we create the compelling sales page or the compelling email that's going to sell it, or whatever method we're going to be using to sell it. We create the marketing material for it first, once we have the idea fully formed in terms of what we're expecting to be able to create. And we have that sales page, we have that email describing the product in detail in terms of the benefits it's going to provide. And then what we do is we offer a pre-order, pre-launch discount, or pre-order, pre-launch price special or bonuses or other things that make it advantageous for somebody to want to invest in it in advance. And it needs to be significant, not, $1 off or 10% off, because we haven't even created it yet. So we need to give something very significant, like 50% off. Because remember, the important thing is not how much money we make on the initial orders. The important point is that we validate that there's a market for what we want, so it makes sense to make the rest of it. So what we can do is we can set it up on pre-order, and we need to be very explicit about that it's a pre-order and then it'll go live on a certain date or within a certain time frame or whatever. And the pre-orders have to be refundable and include a money-back guarantee. So that way, if a buyer does decide, this is taking longer than I thought, or I changed my mind, because we haven't given them anything yet except a promise, we need to include that as well. And we can set a minimum number of pre-orders that are needed in order to move forward with creating the product. Now, that could be an explicit number that we share, or it could just be a number we have in our head. And we can wait and see how it plays out. And then if we decide we aren't going to make the product, obviously we refund everybody who invested in it. But that's one way to potentially do it, where we can actually predict the demand by creating a sales letter and adjusting the sales letter, and we can tweak it and test as many versions of it as we want. The material point isn't how many versions of the sales page that we make. It's that we find a sales process that will ultimately work for our particular product or service. And if we're able to do that, we validated that there's a demand for it, so it makes sense to want to go out and create it. So that is one way that we can essentially do it. Now, another thing that we can do is we can start off, instead of creating the product itself, we can start off with coaching calls. So whether or not these are paid coaching calls where we're trying to make money and we say, we're going to give you a free coaching call, or what I prefer is actually a free call, or at least very low cost. There's as a sidebar, there is sort of conflicting ideas about the free versus paid. On the one hand, when we give away something for free, it lowers the barriers to entry for people to want to take advantage of it, which is great, because it means somebody who would want to, take advantage of our services, money is not going to be the thing that stops them. The downside of that is that it tends to have less value because it's free. No matter how much we say the value of this call is worth, if we don't charge anything for it, the reality of it is it has very little value to people because there's no cost associated. The minute people start spending money on something, they care a lot more about it. And so it's generally smarter to do a paid call, but again, at a big discount potentially. And here's the other psychology thing with the paid versus free. We want to validate whether or not we have paying customers for our product, not just interest, but paying customers. If what we do is we roll out a product and we say it's free for the coaching, we're going to get 100 people on there. They're all going to say, yes, yes, I would pay it. I think it's worth this amount of money. They haven't spent a nickel, so it doesn't count. Until somebody actually pulls out their credit card or their wallet and makes a purchase, they haven't validated that our product or our service is worth anything other than free. And so that's an important distinction. To get somebody to spend even $1 is a lot more valuable than giving it to them for free because it is an exchange of value. So they put something in to get that back out. So we could start with paid coaching calls. And we could sell 1 hour or 30-minute sessions. And this has a dual benefit. Number one, we can sort of vet the demand for what we want. If nobody wants our coaching calls about the topic that we're going to cover, and obviously these aren't generic calls. These are calls to give the same benefit that we believe our course would. So whatever that end benefit is, whatever that transformation is for the customer, is the same thing we want to be able to give them on this coaching call. But because it's one-on-one, obviously it's not a scalable business, but it's a great way to vet that. The other thing that's great about that is as we start to talk to people, we're going to be able to identify real customer problems and challenges, not just ones that we think they've got or are trying to anticipate. They're going to share with us what their actual issues are. That is going to help us zero in on the product that we're creating and make sure it's all that much better and more targeted. And the other benefit is we have potential to get people who are either evangelists for the product because they've spoken with us personally, so they know how good our coaching and our content is, or they could be testimonials potentially. So we would have to disclose that they got something for free or whatever it is if we're doing that, if we're incentivizing them, but we could use that as well. So there's a number of benefits of doing it that way as well. And then we can verify and we can vet that our own knowledge, information, and ideas have validity in the marketplace, and there is a market for them of people that would want to spend money to get that information, to get that transformation, and to get that help. And we can get real-time feedback. When we sell a course, somebody goes and buys it, we may never hear from them. They might have loved it, they might have hated it, but unless they ask for a refund or they proactively post a testimonial, we have no idea how they felt about it. And so there's real value in that as well. And we can let all that information inform us and focus our content on the product that we're going to be able to make. And that is going to be a really powerful way to do it as well. The third thing that we can do is we can create a minimum viable product or an MVP. And the idea for this is sort of like what we said in step one with the outline, but we go a step past that. And we actually develop the first full module or first section of whatever the course is. So not only do we have at this point our idea and our outline for where it's all going, but we have the first one completely created with all the tools, templates, whatever else we're going to be including in there, laid out in a members area. So that way we can show exactly what it would be like. We know exactly what it would be like, and we can see, hey, is this thing going to have validity? Once we've got that set up and created with all the other modules in sort of standby mode that we're going to be creating later, we can sell access to the initial content. So there's a number of different ways to do this. One is to say, hey, listen, I'm going to give you a sneak peek. You're going to have an opportunity to upgrade later, but for $1 or whatever it is, I'll let you in. You can get the first chapter. You can get the first module. The rest of them are going to be created. For anyone who takes advantage of this, you're going to get a 50% discount if you upgrade to the full course once it's ready or whatever it is, right? You can do it that way. The other way that you can do it is you instead of doing it that way where then they get the bonus, what you could do is just sell it as a standalone. If it's in and of itself has value, you could potentially sell that as a standalone product at a lower price point and then just add the other things onto it. And the third way that you can use it is you can still sell it as the complete product, and you can ultimately develop it in real time. And we'll cover that in another one, but I just wanted to touch on it right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to then use feedback from all of those early customers, and we're going to use that to guide the development of the rest of the product. So we've created the one module, we get people into the module, we make sure that they've had to pay at least something for it. So we validate that there's a market for it and demand for it. And then we collect feedback from them as well. And we get feedback on things like the flow, the ability to navigate and all of that. Like, does all of that make sense? Because we don't want to create the whole thing and then have to go back and redo it because it isn't user friendly. But we also get to validate the content itself, and we get to determine, is this content really valuable? What's missing? What format would you have liked better? If we do our videos in a particular way and they say, well, geez, that was hard to hear or hard to see. We don't want to create a whole slew of videos only to find out we got to reshoot them all. So it's better anyway to get people into the product right away, even as beta testers or whatever else. So that way we have an opportunity to get feedback back. And then when we go ahead to create the rest of it, we know that while we're doing that, we've got information real time from customers about what they want. And there's no better way to create something than to know exactly what a customer wants and give it to them. When we do that, we're almost guaranteed to succeed if we don't fall down somewhere else, because the product itself has a demand and we know that it will sell. And so that is a really effective way to do it as well. And we can get people into the product that way, and we can offer it as we need beta testers or as a pre-launch, charter members. There's a variety of different ways to spin it or to market it. But the idea is we use the idea that it isn't fully created as a benefit, not as a detriment. Well, it's not totally done yet, but if you get in now, I'll give you a discount. We never want to make it seem as though we haven't completed everything. What we want to make it seem as this is a benefit. So no matter what the situation is or how much of the product is made, it's always a good thing. It's always a benefit because they're getting in now while it's early, so the price is low. Once it's fully fleshed out and optimized, the price is going to go up. Things like that. And so it's all in the way that we position it. The fourth thing that we could do is we can use a webinar or a video sales letter. Now, the power of this, first of all, if we're using a higher price product, we have to do that. Typically, and these are ballparks, so you have to judge it on your own industry and your own research. But the fact is, typically anything over a few $100s is going to be hard to sell with just a flat sales letter. You're going to need some sort of video at a minimum. And the benefit of a webinar is you have a captive audience for the amount of time that you're on there with them. So you establish a relationship and you start to build that trust far more than you can through a sales letter. It's your voice, potentially your face if you're on camera at all. But even if you're doing walkthroughs, you get to talk conversationally with people. You can do live Q&A, you can answer questions, you can do all of that stuff. And you can take people through a logical sales process where you talk about objections and issues. You can talk about the process you use to create the product. All these things add value. And the longer that we're on with them creating that presentation and that connection, the easier it is to be able to make the sale if we have a quality product that they ultimately want at the end of the day. And so a webinar is actually what I prefer, but a video sales letter can work if it's a mid-price product and we're just looking to sell it. The other issue with a video sales letter though is it's static. So if we want to make a change, we got to go back and change the video, re-render it. With a webinar, we can make changes in real time. We can see the analytics, where people are dropping off, the questions they're asking. We can then add those questions back into the presentation. So we're covering all the objections along the way. So I love the real-time feedback mechanism of a live webinar, and eventually you can convert it to a recorded one that's evergreen. But you want to do it live in the beginning so you're able to get that real-time feedback, adjust what you're creating, and make sure that it's spot on. So if we use that webinar, and the other point I was getting at is for higher price products, you absolutely have to. You aren't going to be able to sell $1,000 plus products with a flat sales page. You're going to need some kind of webinar, some kind of interaction, or a consultation where you get on the phone with somebody to be able to make that kind of a sale. And so if we create that webinar or that VSL, we can build trust, and what we can do is the same idea, right? What we're doing is we're educating our prospects throughout the process. We're identifying that problem or pain point or goal they're trying to reach, and then we demonstrate our expertise so they know we're qualified, and we present our solution. And again, the idea here is we've established more trust and credibility than we would from a sales page. So even still, if we haven't created the full product, we can make the offer for the upcoming product with the launch date. Now, one quick note about the fact that I keep talking about this product is upcoming. It is important to at least have picked a date at which you're going to launch it and to disclose that. Now, some people worry, well, if I do that, how do I know I'm going to be able to get it done? Well, that's a question you need to answer for yourself. Are you going to make the commitment to get it done if you are guaranteed that you found that demand there? Would you be willing to work nights, work in the morning, whatever you need to do to hit that deadline if it comes up? Because the fact is, you're going to need to do that if you promise the product, and you have to give a date. You can't just say it's going to be pre-launching, pay me now, and I'll get it to you down the road. That isn't going to work. There has to be a date where it's going to go live. But the key is, only the beginning needs to go live, especially if you're drip feeding it, because you're going to be able to do the rest of it later. And so it's okay. You just need the beginning of it ready to go on the launch date. And so you can make the offer for the upcoming product at the end of the webinar. The fifth thing that we could do is we can leverage social proof, right? So here, what we want to do is we want to collect testimonials from our coaching clients. So if we've done these coaching calls, if we've done other calls that even aren't specifically within our product, but they're in the same vein of the product that we're trying to create, then what we could do is collect testimonials from all of that other work. And obviously we need permission to be able to use them. But if we get the permission to use them, we can use those in order to create social proof to make more sales going forward. And this can come from coaching clients, it can come from beta testers. So if we can get beta testers into the product, same idea. Now we can use those case studies, we can use those results, we can use that feedback of other people that we helped and the results that they achieved, and use that social proof in our pre-launch marketing. And that is really powerful because everybody knows if we want to sell something, we stand something to gain. So we're less trustworthy. When someone else says it about us, it has a lot more gravity and a lot more power. The sixth thing that we could do is to create urgency and scarcity. Now, to do this, we want to set a deadline for those pre-orders or limit the number of spots available. So yes, we're offering charter member spots. It's going to launch in a month or 3 weeks or whatever it is. There's only 50 spots available at this particular price. Then the price starts to go up. It's only available for the next week, and then we're going to go into our actual sales for it. So if you want to save and get your 50% discount, now is the time to lock in. If you're making really aggressive offers and discounts like that, you should be able to make sales for your product. If you aren't, that's a big warning sign that there's not a demand, right? Because once you charge your full price and you're at launch, if nobody wanted it in pre-launch at half price, that's not a great sign. Now that said, some people won't buy in pre-launch because they want to know the product is ready already. So it's not an exact science, but you can at least gauge the demand with that. And so you can set a deadline, and you can offer bonuses for early buyers too. You get a one-on-one coaching call session, or you get these other 5 bonuses that aren't going to be available once we launch. The seventh thing is to focus on the benefit. The seventh thing you could do is to focus on the benefits and the outcomes. So it's not necessarily a completely separate item or way to do it, but it's important that we keep this in mind as we are trying to create this demand or evaluate this demand. It's not the features of our product. It's not how many modules are in there. It's ultimately the benefit and the outcome that our prospect and our customer is going to receive or achieve. If we can clearly articulate what the transformation that our product or service is going to provide for them, that is going to be far more powerful than just listing out the features. So we want to address our target audience's pain points, desires, and how our product or service is going to meet and fulfill those. The eighth thing is to build an email list from it, because by doing this, we have prospects that we can market to again and again. We can nurture those relationships, and we're going to be able to go back to them. So even if we just get them to sign up on a pre-launch list, it then gives us the opportunity to go back to them, and we have a built-in sort of marketing machine, or at least pool of people we can go to that have already expressed interest, as opposed to starting cold. So to build an email list, what we would want to do is create basically a lead magnet. We want to take a bit of the product that we're creating and make what's basically sort of a flyer for it, or a little tease about what's going to be in it, and give the sort of outline or the basic idea of what to do to solve the problem. So we create a page that basically says, listen, here's a free guide on how to do X, Y, or Z. This is what you'll learn and how you'll benefit. You put those bullets on there, sign up, and you can download it instantly. When they download it, they're basically just getting a PDF or some simple file or a video that we create that's going to give them the steps that they would need to follow in order to get the achieved result. However, it's going to give them the what to do, but it's not going to give them the how to do it. So we aren't sharing specifically how to implement each of these steps. We're just telling them what to do. At that point, they're still getting value. They're getting information. So they're going to feel good about it, but they're also going to be pre-sold and interested in what it is that we have to offer, because now they can see, oh, these steps make sense, but I don't know how to do them. So I can go off and try to learn and research and figure out how to do them myself, or you're telling me that you have this product I can buy that's going to walk me through each of the steps and exactly how to do them. That's where the power comes in a lead magnet. And because you've got them on an email list, unlike an ad where they either see it and buy or they don't and they're gone, we can send them out multiple emails, nurturing that relationship and generating sales over time. And so that is a really powerful, by being able to nurture those subscribers with valuable content and then make them the actual offer. So we don't even necessarily need to tell them when the offer is coming out or when the product is fully coming out. We can start with just the lead magnet. And then what we're going to do is send them out emails with additional value and testimonials and case studies and everything else. So then by the time we go to launch the product and we go to sell it, they're already pre-sold. They're ready to buy. And the ninth thing that we could do is we could build our product in real time. And I alluded to this earlier. And what I mean by this is we create the outline, we figure out what we're going to do, and we basically create the first module. But in this particular method, what we're going to do is we're going to sell it as though it is launched. And so if we know that to create that first module, it took us 4 days, then we know that what we're going to need to do is drip feed this for a week between each module to make sure we have time to get it done. So what we do is in the marketing of it, in the sales letter of it, or the sales process of it, we let them know when you take advantage of this product, you're going to get one lesson per week. So that way it's broken down into bite-sized pieces. It's easy to get through. It's not overwhelming, and you'll make progress each step of the way until you get to the end result. We know internally only the first module is created, but they know they're going to get a new module every week. We also know it takes us 4 days to make a new module. This gives us a little bit of breathing room to make sure we have time to get all the modules done. And so we can sell it this way as long as we stay committed to making sure that we follow through on what we said we would. Because ultimately, if that's what we're selling, that's what we have to deliver. And so we can validate that demand, again, without creating the whole product in advance. And then if we don't make any sales or not enough, we can either just refund those people and say, you know what, we're going in a different direction. We're not going to build this now. We're not going to complete the course. Or we can, build it and adjust our marketing along the way while we build out the rest of the course. But it gives us time to get the marketing going in real time while we're also building the product, instead of having to build everything up front and then hope we can sell it. So the key is to validate that demand and gather the feedback before we invest the significant time and resources into creating the full product. But we need to do it in a way that's ethical, right? And that makes logical sense. So we do need to make sure that whatever we say we're going to do, we follow through on. This approach is going to reduce our risk, reduce our time commitment, and ensures that we're building something the audience actually wants. So the takeaway here is that turning your passion into profits is an exciting idea, no doubt. I mean, who wouldn't want to spend their days doing exactly what they love and getting paid for it? But at the same time, we need to be smart about how we do it so that we can stack the odds of success in our favor. We can't force a market to buy a product that they don't want, but we can find out what the market wants and build a product around that. And by using these strategies, we're able to leverage our time and our effort, and we can assess exactly where the true sales, profit, and growth potential is, so that when we do start creating our products, we know that we can feel confident that we'll be able to make an impact for our customers, and we'll get rewarded for that ourselves too at the same time.